Welcome to the tent of Avraham. On the first night and the first day of Sukkot, we invite Avraham Avinu, the founding father of the people of Israel, into our Sukkah. And now what does that mean and how is that connected to Sukkot? So let's focus on three things: his worldview, his life events that connect to Sukkot, and other Sukkot connections. In terms of his worldview, Avraham Avinu manifests the attribute known as chesed, which is commonly translated as loving kindness, and that kind of ignores the rest of what he did in his life, which has to do with being a truth seeker and a freedom fighter, as well as somebody who invites everyone into his tent. And that's where I want to begin, with the inviting everyone into your tent. The worldview of Avraham has to do with understanding the unity of creation. And in order to understand the unity of creation, you need to look at the entire breadth of creation and then find the underlying unity within it, which is why he ends up becoming Av Hamon Goyim, the father of many nations. And on Sukkot, the main offerings that are brought, which are unique to Sukkot, are the 70 offerings, the 70 calves. And the reason for that is because the number 70 represents the 70 nations, the nations of the world. There are many things that we read on Sukkot that have to do with the world as a whole, and many nations come to Israel to pray for rain, and you can see this walking down the streets of Jerusalem on Sukkot holiday. Many people come to Israel because of that prophecy that says that any nation that does not come to Israel is not going to have rainfall. So some people take this very seriously, and it's an amazing thing to see. In the prime example of Avraham being the person who invites people into his tent, in fact, the only example that we actually have in the Torah, he tells the three guests who visit him, Hisha'anu tachat ha'etz. Hisha'anu sounds very much like the word Hosha'ana, which is a reference to the willow branches, the aravot that we use for Hosha'anot on Sukkot. So that's an interesting connection for you to think about. And the other thing has to do with Pri Etz Hadar, the four species that we celebrate Sukkot with. And there's a lot of reasons and explanations for why those four particular species, but the one that we call the etrog, the citron, is referred to as a Pri Etz Hadar. And the word Hadar actually shows up in another place in the Torah, which is V'hadarta Pnei Zaken. You shall give honor and glory and respect to the elderly, which is where we talk about old age. And midrashically, we say that Avraham and Sarah were beautified with old age. Shehidram HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'seva tova. And the beauty of old age has to do with the aspect of Sukkot, which has to do with the dying of the year and things becoming old and dying out, which is Chag HaAsif, the gathering festival. And yet we find beauty in things which are transient, which shall pass because of their uniqueness, because we realize that they will never be repeated again, which is in essence one of the reasons why the core reading of Sukkot is Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, who talks a lot about things. He talks a lot about finding uniqueness in your life. We may be able to talk about Kohelet further, but that was all for Avraham.